Hi guys, my name is Borrodante, and welcome back to Overpaint. Today's patient is Ashley Sketches. What an amazing real name. Hey hon. Hi fam. I was wondering if you'd like to do an overpaint of my character, Ari Karma. What an amazing real name. Their snake's name is Hisser. Ari and Hisser. Got it. The character is pretty cocky and a meathead. Ooh. I'd love to see them in your art style. Also, they're half Egyptian and half Irish. What a spicy combination! Well, let's download the picture and start. I'm so theatrical today. Now, I'm predicting that I'm gonna be making some moving about for the two shots of the characters. That's why I added some negative space around the picture. And now let's go ahead and stretch things around. Now, I merged both shots into kind of a one space. I still think we should play a bit with the color of the background, but generally it's not going to be an exactly segregated two spaces. So right now I'm going to play around with the positioning of the two, I'm going to say two characters. It's the same character, but you know what I mean. Positioning two characters in the composition and choosing the color of the background. And then we'll move on to actually improving the rendering and whatnot. Alright, I think this works a bit better for me to position our Ari like this. Since I combined them in kind of a seemingly one space, it's a good idea to use different scales on them so they would feel a bit more like a composition of shots. That's why I made the sitting version a bit bigger and the action version is left a bit further away, so we would see more of the whole magic action going on around. Now, I made the background for the action scene a bit darker, so we would have a bit more of an impressive lighting effects going on. And in here, I added a bit of the sky and some sort of stone where the character is sitting. It wasn't necessary, like, we totally could tell that Ari is sitting here, but it's kind of like brain just wants to see what the character is in direct contact with, when there's obviously so much hints on that object. So I decided to just add some shadow there. Now I'm gonna go ahead and apply some lighting and general rendering. By the way, the character itself, I really don't feel the need of changing anything because the character itself is really amazing. Like, it's really well done and interesting. I only made this leg a bit shorter after finishing the boots because it was a bit longer with no actual obvious reason. Yeah, also I added the bright light background in here to have a bit of a stronger contrast around the darker hair, because in here character kind of blends in with the background. And generally I made the background a bit less saturated so it wouldn't dominate over the character. This vibrant brown was really kind of heavy on the character, so this brings in a bit more space, like it's more grayish, so it feels like more of an atmospheric effect, so it brings in some air to the scene. Yeah, and in here also I already prepared some of the purple color magic light from whatever's going on around. So in here we're gonna apply lighting from this direction, like from a bit of a back side, and in here the light source will be basically magic itself, so it will be kind of like all over the place, and we'll make it a bit brighter on the edges, so mostly it's like character lit from the sides and a bit darker in the center. A pretty cool action-like high contrast kind of lighting. Very cool looking. So let's go ahead and do that. Also, right now I'm gonna try to apply some filters and magic with layers to quickly get rid of the dark line work. Not sure if that's gonna work, but let's give it a try. Alright, I think this will help a little bit. what I did was I selected with color range and chose the black color of lines. After that, I selected refine edge and shifted it to make it of bigger radius everywhere. And that was the mask for a blurry version of the same image. So this is the mask of it. And the image itself is like this without a mask. So we can see how all the black lines are blurred away. And then we masked out everything but the areas where most of the black lines appeared. Looks pretty messy, but it's a good base to start working on. Also, for that matter, by the way, it's not necessary at all to remove the lines, it's just my art style is not a line art style, so generally as is, there's not much I would want to change about the visuals. But since we're here, let's go ahead and make a bit of a push towards the realistic rendering. Okay, I'm kind of almost done here, just rendering wise. Obviously, I removed a lot of details, because that's like the next step of what I would do if I would have a lot of time to finish this as my own painting. So as you can see, I grabbed the initial color of the skin, for instance, and then basically this is where it's left. Here a little bit, here but darker, maybe on the face there's also some of that color as well. That's the areas where the surface of the skin isn't facing downwards and mostly like either horizontally aimed like this or a bit looking upwards. In all the other situations here, I was choosing colors based on how they are affected by the environment. We chose the light to be from that side, so we have an overexposed, really white skin color on the edges from that angle, wherever there is no obstacle for that light to reach the object. So that's where I dragged the skin color, as you can see on the color box right now, upwards and closer to white. Because initially, this color that we grabbed from the original, that's the actual perfectly lit skin. If we make it brighter, we have to make it less saturated. That's how overexposure works. So that's how I made this effect of really bright skin. When the main light source, the brightest light source, is somewhere on the back or on the sides, meaning it's not covering the whole surface or the main part of the character, it's only like a part of it, then we should probably overexpose it, since if the main light is not overexposed, then everything else should be too dark for that bright light to be brighter than everything else. But we adjust the brightness of the picture overall to make this side of the character being properly lit for us. So there's kind of a secondary rim light that's going from the side. It will be overexposed, so it would be brighter. That's just one thing that many artists really don't do properly because they don't want to make the skin color too white anywhere. Well, it's actually okay to do that if it's just a secondary light somewhere. And of course, the rest of the skin, like this color, is a lot more saturated than the original skin color. This is a shadow, but it's a lot more saturated and more red. This is because there is a lot of reflected light in this situation. We have this leg and this leg reflecting a lot of light towards this area. So that's why it's catching this really saturated skin-colored light reflected from the knees on itself. And it looks really nice, like a lot of bright, almost white contours on the legs, and then on top of it we see this nice reflected light. This looks really pleasant. Generally, I worked a lot on the values in here. Also, I did some work with wrinkles, kind of making them showing where the actual tension is going on. And in here we have a relaxed mass of cloth. But the values generally, in here we can see how the shadows are very local, just where there's some wrinkles wrinkle, we get it darker. But the main thing with the lighting is that whatever is facing upwards or towards the even kind of ambient, but sort of the main direction of the light source, it gets brighter, if we choose it to be so. But let's say like we have this rim light from over here, but also generally we have a big, soft, dim light from the top, kind of like a skylight. You always have to choose the direction of the light because that will make your picture actually real, because no object is ever lit evenly from all the directions. It's not possible. So we choose it going from the top. That means only this top plane of the shoulder right here is gonna be lit at that top level, and everything that is facing not upwards but sideways, this whole thing is facing sideways. So everything in here can't be as bright as this. After we go downwards from this angle to already this angle, we can't go brighter than this. We fill the whole shirt with this darker color, and then for all the wrinkles we only go even darker than that. That's how you basically go for a proper values on any object. So this is casual, close to kind of a skylight situation, maybe covered by some kind of entrance to a dungeon, maybe? A little bit like from one side there's a big rock, and on this side there's some sky visible on that area, and generally sky is on the top as well, but mostly a reflected light. It's kind of like a soft light situation with a darker side on the left side of the character where there is a wall or something, but still there is some skylight happening. So this is a realistic outdoors kind of lighting. And in here there's a very specific kind of lighting where I made all the middle planes of the character and all the objects darker. And here we can see how this neck has its own actual color in the middle, and on the sides it's actually overexposed, creating this effect of being lit from the sides. And also again, even in here we can't go just this flat color and making it gradually like this. I also chose that at the bottom, as in most 99% cases things still are, even where there's no main light or brightest light, the bottom plane will be a bit darker than the top plane, but they both will be darker than the side light from the magic. So that's how I went about all the things, also adding some reflection for the cool looks. Generally, I mostly spend time on this character, obviously, but I wanted to just solve a little problem of the lighting for this specific magic situation. So there we go with the changes. I think this worked out pretty well. I haven't had a lot of time to work on the face, but generally in here we should basically bring back all the dark lines that I sort of destroyed. Basically, I gotta say, this mostly would work perfectly well with lines on top, with certain limitations, meaning we shouldn't probably go to too dark of a shadows, like not that close to the black line. When you have black lines in the style, it's a good idea to create a certain limit for how dark things should go. If the line is black, the darkest shadow should be probably like this, you know, where you can actually clearly see where the line is and where the darkest shadow is. But still, generally, you're free to do the same thing, following all the values and directions of surfaces where they're facing. Let's maybe add a little bit of this action that took place in the original, only not as massive, just because I don't want to cover up too much of the character. And make a brighter center somewhere where we want these streams of magic going the brightest, so it would look more like it's actually glowing. This place felt like it's missing some shadow. And some love for the snack too. So yeah, here we go, probably the final result. I think the main actual improvement is just positioning the characters a bit better, but I think this was just a quick combination of two different compositions for me to choose from. But here we have like an actual merged picture. One thing I can say about the initial art style, that the line work and the colors and the character are awesome, but one thing that doesn't work perfectly well is the addition of these non-flat areas, especially the magic in here and this dirt. this stuff, it doesn't seem to follow the actual surfaces, or even if not follow the surfaces, it should follow like the same sharp and flat kind of feel of the image. Maybe instead of using such soft spots, you could do more like this kind of shapes, you know, like having all the dirt and everything else showing up with more of a stylized, semi-transparent, not too highly contrast spots, but they should have like more of a flat nature. I think that would look a bit better. Here, made the pants a bit smaller, like narrower, because they felt a little bit like they're out of control. Shame we don't have much time. I would actually love to finalize this character in full detail. But for today, this is it. Tell me guys what you think. I think the character is really awesome, and the rendering works pretty well on this first sitting version, where I actually chose to spend a bit more time. Thank you, Ashley, for your submission. This was really cool. And I thank you for watching if you did. I guess you did if you're here. Leave a like and subscribe. Tell a friend. Go raid some dungeons. Do whatever you want. And I will see you in the next one. Bye. Also, I love how the snake becomes a lot bigger and fatter with the whole magic going on. Well, that's one high-calorie magic.